Hello and welcome back to Pet McCoy Sports, presented by Prospect Apparel. Today we're back with another event breakdown. Obviously, this one's coming to you a bit later in the week than I normally do them, but it's been a crazy week. But I'm here now. We got a great card this weekend. I'm so ready for it. Petr Yan, former champion, number 2 ranked bantamweight, going against his former foe's teammate in Merab Dvalishvili. I've kind of learned how to say the name, but it's a mouthful, so I'm going to refer to him as Merab through the whole breakdown. But getting right into it, man. Petr Yan is one of the best strikers in the UFC. Obviously, he's fallen on hard times since he illegally needs Aljamain Sterling to lose his title. He's dropped 3 fights, one by split decision, two fights, one by split decision to Aljamain Sterling in the rematch, and one by split decision to hot prospect and now the number 1 contender, Sean O'Malley. So Petr Yan, I think, is still very good. I mean, he could easily have won those fights. I think those fights could have gone either way. I personally scored the most recent one for Sean O'Malley, but Petr is good, man. He's shown how good he is with his breaking of Jose Aldo and with his destruction of Uriah Faber. You know, people say, oh, 40-year-old Uriah Faber doesn't count. Uriah Faber was coming off a win. He had just knocked out Ricky Simón, which is a very impressive win, a very well aging win now. Obviously, Ricky Simón comes up against Song Yudong in the not so distant future. But getting right back to this one, Petr Yan, I think, is going to be very well researched from Merab. You know, he's got Aljo breaking down film. Aljo's faced him twice. He knows the ins and outs of Petr Yan's game. And Merab's got the best coach. He's been out in Vegas for a long time. Since I talked to Ray Longo, he said Merab's been out in Vegas training with Aljo and a lot of other fighters. So he's getting the best looks for Petr Yan. But I don't think you can really prepare for a guy like Petr Yan, who's so intelligent and knows what to do, when to do it. And I think maybe part of why he lost the Sean O'Malley fight is he kind of ran out of time. He was too patient early, and then he had to make it all back. But I think over 5 rounds, this favors him a lot. Obviously, Merab is a cardio machine, and he dominates people on the ground. Obviously, most recently, Jose Aldo, he held him against a cage for about 15 minutes, which obviously disappointing for most for Jose Aldo to go out that way. But it is what it is. This is the game. You have to do what you have to do to win. Obviously, you don't want to stand with Jose Aldo unless you're Petr Yan. But my prediction, because I think Petr Yan's got really, really good takedown defense, and Merab has some chin issues, maybe. I mean, he got cracked by Marlon Moraes. I'm going with Petr Yan, the Russian Terminator, as I like to call him. No mercy. I think he gets it done with no mercy, living up to his nickname. 4th round TKO. I think he puts him out and calls for a title shot. I think you can call for a title shot, but I would like to see him face either Sean O'Malley in a rematch. I wouldn't be complaining about that fight as another number 1 contender, but I don't think Sean would take that fight. Get a title shot, or wait for the winner of Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. But all those fights would be amazing. I'm so ready for it. Obviously, if Henry Cejudo can beat Aljamain Sterling, the division is wide open again. Anyone can get a title shot. I think up next, though, is Sugar Sean O'Malley. All right, coming to you in the heavyweight division, we have Alexander Volkov versus Alexander Romanov, the battle of the Alexanders. And you know, Alexander Romanov showed his biggest flaw in his most recent loss, and we had seen it before. He has I believe it's a no contest due to a groin strike. You could tell he maybe took the easy way out on that fight, or maybe it was disqualification. But his gas tank is really poor, and that showed in the fight against Marcin Tybura. Obviously, the elevation comes in as a factor. Obviously, we saw a lot of fighters gas out who don't normally gas out like that. You know, we saw Luke Rockhold on his hands and knees, tired. So obviously, Alexander Volkov, he's looked at that and said, "Okay, I have this advantage here. I'm 6'7", and Romanov is 6'2". He has a clear advantage in the striking realm. I think he's a really, really good striker. I really like Alexander Volkov, but his glaring flaw and glaring thing that I don't know if he's worked on. I hope he has. is his takedown defense and his ground game. Because we saw him get dominated by Curtis Blades. We saw him get taken down and it was a straight arm lock by Tom Aspinall. So we've seen him struggle on the ground, and it feels like they've booked this fight to push Alexander Romanov up the division. And I mean, if Romanov can do it in the first round, that would be very impressive. But the later this fight goes, that's where I lean Alexander Volkov. But the biggest factor to me is, can Alexander Volkov stop Alexander Romanov's takedowns? And for me, that answer is sadly no. I think Romanov is going to take him down. I think he's going to submit Volkov in the first round and get back on winning terms. But I do want to say I wouldn't rule out Volkov winning a TKO in round 2, round 3. But if this fight is in the first round, this is Romanov's realm. But the later the fight goes, it's Volkov's fight. So that's my prediction. I think Romanov gets it done by submission. That's what I'll say. But I'm not ruling out the Volkov TKO. And I do think Volkov is the underdog. So if you were a betting man and you felt like a little bit risky, I believe he's like a plus 130, plus 110. So it's not huge odds. But I would throw some money on him if I was a betting man. So enjoy the fight. It's going to be a good one. Good heavyweight fight. To the light heavyweight division. Well, it's actually a catchweight bout. I believe it was taking place at 210. Obviously, this fight we were supposed to have a few weeks ago. So actually, my breakdown is still up from that fight. And honestly, I could have just pasted that breakdown into this video, which probably would have been easier. Probably would have saved me time. But this fight is once again just a fun fight. It's two guys who love to get a finish, 21-7, 29-9. I mean, both these guys, it's do or die. I think, they knock someone out, they submit someone, or they get knocked out, or they get submitted. So it's a first round finish fight. I think Nikita Krylov, as I said before, I think he is a future champion because he really is so well rounded and really, really good. And I think this is just another feather in his cap. I think his experience on the big show is going to play a factor. Obviously, Ryan Spann knocked out Dominic Reyes last time out, which was super, super, super impressive. But Nikita Krylov, I think, is the better all-round fighter, and I think he will catch Ryan Spann and then submit him in the first round. I think it's going to be quick, but a good showing from either man. I think Spann will have some success on the feet. He's going to try and crack Krylov early. But if Krylov can stay composed, I mean, he likes to go wild and, charge you down with head kicks and God knows what other strikes. But I think Krylov catches him, sits him down, and takes him out with a submission. Moving on to a very fun fight in the featherweight division. I read this was at 155, so I might have to fix this in my article on Substack. I'll promote that at the end of this. But Ricardo Ramos taking on Austin Lingo. Now that I think of it, yeah, it is definitely a featherweight fight. That was my mistake. Ricardo Ramos is very good. He has an amazing spinning back elbow. He's obviously got 2 wins by knockout in the UFC with it, and that is an insane thing to get one, and let alone just the one he had in last June, which was incredible. I replay it all the time. But Austin Lingo, man, he's been out since 2021, so we haven't seen much of him. But I believe he's 2-1 in the UFC. All his fights have gone the distance. But what most people forget is Austin Lingo has a tendency to knock his opponents out very quick. If you go and look at his record on Tapology or on Sherdog, he is knocking people out in the first round. And I think Ramos, he's one of those guys where it's like he can be really on sometimes, and other times he can just not be there at all. And I think this is a good fight for the return of Austin Lingo. Obviously, danger that he has to avoid. But I think he gets in the win column. I think he gets the finish, his first finish inside the UFC cage. I think he does it in the first round. Austin Lingo, first round, TKO KO is my prediction. Jonathan Martinez versus Said Nurmagomedov is another bantamweight fight that promises to deliver. Said Nurmagomedov coming off of the guillotine win over Said Yakub Kakramanov, which, these names, they're not easy to pronounce. I have to drink a lot of water before pronouncing them. But Said Nurmagomedov is very good. If you like all-out action watch Said Nurmagomedov. Very fun spinning attacks, but also very effective striking. And then also he has the Dagestani wrestling, which is ever present. And man, he's good, man. He was in trouble early against Said Yakub, but he pulled off the finish. I think Jonathan Martinez doesn't pose the wrestling threat that Said Yakub did. And, he's coming off of the spoiler of Cub Swanson's bantamweight debut. And he's a very good striker, very dangerous. But I think he's biting off a little more than he can chew because Said is very good, obviously number 14 in the world. And I think he gets it done, man. I think there are going to be some crazy flurries, but I think Said is going to be the man of the difference maker, which is the Dagestani wrestling. I think he's going to take him down. I think he's going to submit him in round 2. That is my prediction. Said Nurmagomedov, second round submission. Now, finally, the first fight of the main card is Victor Petrino versus Anton Turkalj. Anton Turkalj was given a death sentence in his debut fighting Jailton Almeida, which is just a nightmare matchup for anyone because I think Jailton Almeida is an unbelievable fighter. I believe it was short notice, to be fair to Turkalj, but he had no chance in that fight. And I hate when the UFC does this sometimes where they feed a young guy because he's only got one loss, and that is to Jailton Almeida, to a guy like Victor Petrino, because Victor Petrino, 7-0, 6 wins by finish. His one fight that went the distance was his second fight. He knocked everybody out. He had a very impressive Dana White Contender Series showing. And I think he's going to do it again. I think he knocks Anton Turkalj out in round 1. Obviously, a lot of round 1, round 2 predictions from me, but I think this is one of those type of cards where everyone's going out cold. And, it's going to be a fun card, obviously, taking place at the theater at the Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas. But it is a small cage, like the UFC Apex, which it upset a lot of people when they found out yesterday. But it's like the Palms, small cage, I believe it's 25 foot. Victor Petrino via TKO is my prediction. And I would guess they'd cut Anton Turkalj, even though he's taking on 2 very tough fights in his UFC run. But that's the game. If he wins, his stock goes up. Obviously, Victor Petrino will have to do his job then of probably facing the up-and-comer. But it's a good fight in the light heavyweight division. Obviously, under this is a very good card as well, and the prelims are very fun. And, I'm going to say this now. I started a Substack. So Substack is a place where I can write a blog. It's almost like a blog. And I'll be bringing things like this, but in written form. If you don't have time to watch a 13-minute video, I totally understand. That Substack is on my Twitter. You can check that out. It'd be very much appreciated. I'll be posting articles weekly of fights that you do not want to miss, that you may not have known are on this card. And especially this one, we have some great fights on the prelims. Rafael Sunsao versus David Grant is my one. That is going to be a fight of the night. I think it's a great fight. So thank you so much for watching. Obviously, check out Prospect Apparel. They have some news coming soon. I'm just waiting on my news. How I can announce it and what exactly I can announce, but I know there's something big coming. So you'll have to check Prospect Apparel out. They are an amazing brand run by Nathaniel Wood, UFC featherweight, former UFC bantamweight, and his friend. It's a great brand, great for the gym, great for average wear. Check them out, and thank you so much. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video, it always helps get it on the homepage. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the card.